So today's practice is going to be using the energy of the autumn equinox and thinking about it in terms of a transition. We're transitioning from late summer into early autumn, and because of the idea of balance of an equinox, we're going to be working. I've got this bug flying around my face right now. We'll be working with the idea of transitioning that's heavily weighted on balance poses. Honestly, they lend themselves a lot to fun transitions. So this practice is a little more advanced than some of my other postings. It's best if you've got some yoga experience. If you have any conditions or you are a beginner, you may need to modify. You may need to just stay with one pose while we're transitioning. Maybe just do the transition once. Modify as you need to keep yourself safe. I need 2 blocks for this practice. You need 2 blocks for this practice too. And as we do this practice, like I said, it's a little bit challenging. I don't have all of these sequences mastered, so I want to do this with the spirit of fun. And I'm hoping that that's the energy that you bring to this as well. This is about experimentation. This is about having fun and just playing with moving from pose to pose, with the focus being on what's happening between the 2 poses, how we're linking 2 poses together. So it's going to require a little bit more stamina than you imagine, because we're going to be working on transitioning in a very controlled way. Are you ready? Yes. So come seated into a cross-legged position, and make certain that you can tilt your pelvis a little bit forward, perhaps an inch of lift underneath your hips. Place your hands on your knees and roll your shoulders back. And then just push your rib cage towards the left, then round, tucking your chin to your chest, then push your rib cage towards the right, and then forward, pressing your hands into your knees, lifting your heart. And then take that again and begin to smooth out the motion. So you're making a big circle with your rib cage. I like to say it's like you're scraping the sides of a bowl. Imagine you're just making a big bowl of brownie mix. And you can add some breath patterns to this. Exhale as you bring yourself into flexion, and then inhale as you press your heart forward into a back bend. And do that a few times. Begin to loosen up your shoulders as you do this. The next time your heart comes forward, pause and switch direction. A little bit of hip movement, but a whole lot of spine and shoulders. The next time that your heart comes forward, pause. You'll feel like you're in a little back bend or just sitting upright, and extend your left leg straight, keeping your right heel pulled in. Bring your left knuckles to your inner knee, lift your right arm high, and as you exhale, reach both of your hands towards your left big toe. Come back up, plant your right arm behind you, lift your hips, and take a side stretch on your left side. And let's do that again. So here we've got transitions between 2 poses. I'm going to suggest here that you inhale as you lift your hips and exhale as you arc over towards your left foot. Do this a few times. Big inhale and a big exhale. Okay, one more complete round. And the next time that your hips come down to the mat and you arc over, last time, come back upright, tip back, and just switch your legs. We'll extend the right leg, draw the left foot in, bringing your right knuckles to your inner right knee, lift your left arm high, and arc. Lower your left hand, lift your hips, inhale, and exhale as you arc. Do this a few times. As I'm practicing, I'm hearing thunder off in the distance, but it doesn't seem like it's going to turn into rain where I am. But it's kind of a fun sound. We'll take one more complete round here. And then we'll finish reaching both of our hands towards our right big toe. And then come back up. Draw your knees together and turn and place your feet probably about 18 inches away from your hips. Place your hands behind you, about maybe 12 inches. Inhale and lift into a reverse tabletop, and then lower and just lift your legs. And we'll do that again. Bend your knees, lift into your reverse tabletop, and lower and lift your legs. We'll do that a couple more times. This is a good stretch for the fronts of the shoulders. You may feel that you're a little tight, so don't push it too hard. Do this one more time. And after you lower your hips, just lift your knees or your feet halfway. Bring your shins parallel to the mat. Bring your hands behind your thighs. Draw your shoulder blades together. See if you can extend your legs a little bit more. If you'd like, you can release your hands and balance in Navasana, boat pose. Lower your hands, lower your feet. Open your feet to the outer edges of your mat. Drop your knees to the right and to the left, back and forth. Here's where I have my hokey joke. I always say this is what the ancient yogis called windshield wipers. Come back to center. As soon as you stop laughing, we'll do another round. So, drawing your shoulder blades together, lift your hips, and then lower and lift your legs. Let's do this a couple more times. Inhale as you lift, and exhale as you lift your legs. Now one more time, reverse tabletop, and then lower your hips and just lift your feet till your shins are parallel to your mat. One more time. Take your hands behind your thighs. Draw your shoulder blades together. Extend your legs as much as you feel like you comfortably can. Widen your toes, fan your toes. If you'd like, you can release one hand, two hands. This time, cross your right ankle over your left. Draw your knees in towards your armpits. Reach and open. And extend and open. Couple more times. Extend, a little crunch, and open. Last time, extend and open. Take your hands down, extend your legs straight, come into Dandasana. Dandasana might require you to move your glutes out of the way so your sit bones can contact the mat. Roll your shoulders back, lift your heart. On your next inhale, lift your arms high. As you exhale, a little tilt forward of the pelvis. Tap your fingers down. Inhale, lift. Exhale, a little tilt. Tap your fingers down. Do this a couple of times. You might be able to move a little bit further. I don't have very much of a tilt forward, so I get the same sensation with a smaller tilt. The next time your arms lift, bring them back behind you. Bend your knees. Tip back. Bring your legs parallel to the mat, maybe a little more, and then bring your hands behind your thighs. Draw your shoulder blades together. Again, you can extend your arms, cross your ankles left over right, draw your knees in and open, and draw in and then extend. Exhale as you draw in, inhale as you open. Last time, and extend. Lower your feet down. Swing your legs to the side. Now I'm going to turn so that I can face. Apparently it's easier for me to turn my body than move my blocks. Come into your tabletop. Have your fingers just a few inches from the front of your mat, your shoulders over your wrists, and your hips just over your knees. As a matter of fact, you may need to be moving the knees to do that. On your next exhale, round your spine and inhale into your back bend. Just one more time, round your spine and then inhale into your back bend. And on this inhale, curl your toes under. Next exhale brings you up to your downward facing dog. Pedal your feet. When we pedal the feet, we're opening up the calves. So press one heel down, lift the other heel up. Feel a stretch in your calves, your ankles, and your feet. Come to stillness, soften your knees, and walk your feet forward. Bring your feet all the way to your starting line, which is what I call an invisible line, about 3 inches from the front of your mat. Bring your hands to your shins, lengthen your spine. Draw your hands up to your hips, rise to standing. Lower your hands. Take a moment in Tadasana. Open your eyes. Inhale, arms reach high. Exhale, soften your knees. Fold. Take your fingers to your blocks. Place your blocks right by your heels. Step your right leg way back. This is going to look like my left leg, but just stay with the right leg back because I'm going to be mirroring you in a moment. Extend your front knee towards straight and then bend. Do this a couple of times, building a little bit more heat in the legs. The next time you bend your knee, pause. Lower your right knee down to the mat. Lower the top of your foot down to the mat. Extend your front knee just a little bit, tuck your tailbone down, and then re-enter the stretch. Lift your heart, draw your shoulder blades together, pause for a moment. The muscles that we were using in our Navasana boat pose, the hip flexors, were pretty well utilized here. We, of course, try to use abdominals, but hip flexors really take over, I think, sometimes in boat pose. So we want to stretch them. We want to create balance. Curl your right toe under and lift your knee. Begin to pivot towards the long end of your mat, just bringing your left block inward. Turn your toes out and bend first your right knee and then your left knee. Just back and forth, facing the long end of the mat. Easy inner thigh stretches. This summer, I've had very little time to ride. I've got my horse Jane, and I've been so busy with retreats. I've ridden the last couple of days, so my inner thighs are going to be really happy to get stretched because they're very tight. Take one more side lunge to the left, then bending your right knee, pivot all the way to face the opposite end of your mat. Place your blocks under your shoulders and lift your heart. Make certain that you haven't lost length in your stance. Right away, as you lift your heart, you might feel a stretch here. If our stance is short, you won't get a stretch. And what I mean by short is, too short like this. So lift your heart and then extend your front leg and then bend. And just move fluidly back and forth a few times like this. The next time that you bend your knee, pause. Lower your back knee all the way down. Open your front knee just a little bit. Tuck your tailbone down and then re-enter, finding the hip flexor again. Keep your heart lifted. If you lean forward, and you can experiment with this, you might lose some of the stretch. As you lift your heart, you make this a deeper back bend. Keep tucking your tailbone down so the sensation's in the front of the hip, not in your low back. Then lift your back knee, bring your right block to the inside and spin again. Now, we're going to get into a bit of a challenge in our transition. Depending on your knees, these side lunges may be where you're at, and you may choose to make it more strengthening by bringing your palms off of the blocks. If you'd like, you can lower your hip all the way to your heel and transition back and forth like that. If you'd like to make this more challenging, again, hands to the blocks. Take your time, move slowly and with control, and this can be a great way to build strength and flexibility in your hips. The next time you bend your right knee, that will be your last. As you bend your left knee halfway, spin to face the front of the mat. Heel toe your left foot until it's between your blocks. Make certain you still have your long stance. Plant your back foot. Align the heel of your front foot with the arch of your back foot, as though you're on a balance beam or a tightrope. Lift your upper body, level your hips, extend your arms. Take a moment here in Virabhadrasana 2. Your gaze is over your left hand. Make sure you're keeping your knee over your heel. And then, before we fatigue, we'll begin to move towards our first transition. Lower your left hip. Reach your left arm. Place it on a block. Even if your half moon is pretty solid, for this you may want to use a block. Rest your right hand on your right hip, and as your block moves forward, tap your right foot forward as well. Your block should stay under your shoulder. When you feel controlled, you can lift your back leg, bringing it parallel to the mat, and extend your top arm high. Now, we're going to hold this for just a second, so you can certainly challenge your gaze, but for balance, keep your gaze down. Then, take an inhale, and as you exhale, we'll step back to Warrior 2 again, our starting pose. So on your exhale, point your toe, step right back to your Warrior 2. Take an inhale here, and as you exhale, reach for your block, lift back up to half moon, take your inhale, and as you exhale, you'll reach back into your Warrior 2 again. Inhale, exhale to half moon, inhale, and exhale to Warrior 2. Let's take that one more time on your own. Once you find this Warrior 2, windmill your hands to your blocks or to the mat. Step your back foot forward. Bring your hands to your hips and rise. Come to Tadasana. Close your eyes for a moment. See if it feels as though one leg is longer than the other, or you probably feel a lot more activity in your left hip right now. It was working really hard. Open your eyes. Now you can stay where you're at, depending on how your camera is situated. I'm going to move to this end of the mat so I don't have my back to you. As you inhale, lift your arms high. And as you exhale, soften your knees. Take your hands to your blocks, move them back by your heels. Take a big step back with your left leg. Scooch it back so you have your long stance. Heel toe your right foot so it's centered between your two blocks. And then plant your back foot, heel to arch alignment. Windmill your arms up and into your position for Virabhadrasana 2. begin to reach towards the front of your mat, tipping the right part of your pelvis. With your hand on your block, move your block forward. Tap your back foot in. Position your block. Lift your back leg. Lift your top arm. Ardha Chandrasana, half moon pose. Then we begin our transition. Soften your standing knee. Point your lifted toes of your left foot and reach back, planting your foot into your wide stance of warrior two. Take an inhale here, and as you exhale, reach for your block again and lift. If you keep your gaze down at the ground, that will help you feel more stable. Inhale, exhale. As you reach back, the step to warrior two. Inhale and exhale into half moon. Inhale and exhale. Exhales help create that stability in the transitions. Inhale and exhale into your half moon. Let's do that one more time on your own. Then we'll finish in our warrior two pose. Windmill your hands to your blocks. Spin to face the long edge of your mat again. Turn your toes slightly inward. With your hands on your blocks, lengthen your spine. And as you exhale, lift your tailbone. Lower your heart. You can move your blocks to a lower level, but don't round your spine. Keep your tailbone lifting. So you find your deepest Prasarita Padottanasana. This is an opportunity for you to open the hips that we're working so hard. We'll do more for that, of course. Lift your upper body. Just bring it parallel to the mat. Turn your toes out. Bend your left knee. Spin to face the front of the mat. Move your blocks forward and out of your way. Plant your hands on the mat and step back to the top of a push-up. You have an option to take a vinyasa. You can come forward. You can stay in that push-up or lift to down dog, or come with me. Shift forward. This first one, lower your knees. Take your belly to the mat. Inhale into your back bend and exhale up and back to downward facing dog. Lower your knees. Bring your hips back to your heels. Rest your forehead on the mat. Child's pose. Take a moment to rest here in your child's pose. It's okay to sit up too if you need to. This next pose is another kind of a challenging balance pose. And in this sequence, we'll just explore how moving slowly, a little bit at a time, can often give us better results than trying to move quickly. In this pose, there's no room for momentum. So, from your child's pose, reach your hands forward. Fan your fingers, make sure you have nice big extended hands, and come to tabletop. This tabletop will feel a little bit longer than a typical one. Curl your toes under and lift your downward facing dog. Bring your right hand underneath you and take a hold of your left outer knee or calf. If you're very flexible, maybe your ankle. Shift weight into your left side. Ground your gaze on something on your mat. Just lift your right foot, maybe hover it above the mat. Really think about balancing just on the left side. Lower your foot, replace your right hand. Let's take that to the other side. Bring your left arm underneath you. Bring it to your outer right knee, calf or ankle. Shift weight into your right side. just flex your left foot and let it hover above the mat. Just see if you can catch your balance like that with your left leg low. Lower, replace your left hand, lower your knees, and sit up for just a moment. Rest there. As we come back into that pose again, you can stay just hovering your leg, or you can very slowly, an inch at a time, work on lifting your leg until it's heel pointing up towards the sky. From a child's pose, reach your hands forward. That should give you a nice distance between your hands and your knees. Curl your toes under. Lift to your downward facing dog. Bring your right hand underneath to your outer left leg, wherever you position it. Shift your weight, hover your foot, and then very, very slowly, 1 inch at a time, so that you can adapt to each shift in this balance. Start to lift your leg. And then see if you can slowly lower and replace your right hand on the mat. Other side. Bring your left arm underneath you, take a hold of the outer right leg, hover your foot, and as you go up, remember it's just one step at a time. Really press down, maybe spread the mat apart with your right foot and right hand. Gaze at something as well. If you're challenged, pause with the lift. And then when it's time to come down, come down. Make certain you do that with a big smile on your face, because that's fun. Just pause for a moment, let that integrate. Sometimes the first time we do something is the challenge, as the brain is sort of questioning, what are we doing and why are we doing this? The second time things can go much smoother. Let's try it just one more time. Rather than come to child's pose, here's another thing you can do. Start in a regular tabletop, but move your hands forward about a hand's length, about 8 inches. That gives you that wider stance that you need for downward facing dog. Curl your toes under. Lift to your down dog. Again, make certain you've got a really good connection with the earth with your left hand, left foot. Bring your right arm underneath. Really push your hand and foot down, maybe as though you're spreading the mat, making it longer. And take your time as you work on lifting your other leg. 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch. There, that was a little bit more controlled. When you're ready, do your other side. Yeah, every time you lift your leg an inch, you're changing the balance, the center of balance, and your body needs to readapt just a slight amount. Give it time to do that. That was much nicer for me. I hope it was nicer for you as well. Take a moment, either just seated or in child's pose. And let's go into your tabletop. Move your hands forward about 8 inches or 1 hand's length. Curl your toes under and lift your downward facing dog. Soften your knees, walk your feet forward to your hands. Bring your hands to your hips. Inhale, lengthen your spine, and exhale, rise. Come into a strong Tadasana, mountain pose. And then let's move on. Inhale, lift your arms high. Exhale, soften your knees and fold. Step your right leg way back. This is going to look like my left leg, and honestly it is, but I'm mirroring here. Now keep your left knee right over your left heel. Look back at your right foot, move it a little bit to the right, and then plant it. Bring your left thumb into your left hip crease and push your hip back. Lift your right arm as you lift your upper body, keeping the bend of your front knee, and then lift your other arm as well. This is Virabhadrasana 1, Warrior 1 pose. Begin to hinge forward. Bring your spine parallel to the mat, and then place your hands on your blocks at the highest level. Lift your back heel. Begin to move your blocks forward, tap, tap, tapping your back foot forward, and then lift into a T shape. Now you'll notice I've just got my fingertips on my blocks and they're at the highest level. This is because I'm creating a T shape with my body. I'm not trying to come into a standing split or lower my front body at all. Soften your knee. Take a big step back into Warrior 1. And then let's take that one more time. Hinge forward. Exhale as you launch, bringing your hands to your blocks. Bend your knee. And exhale as you step back to Warrior 1. Lower your hands down to your mat. Lift your back heel. Scooch your foot back a little bit. Let's stretch the hip. So bring a block inside of your left foot. You can take your forearms down. If that works, you might not need to. Some of you might take your forearms all the way down to the mat and let your left knee open to the left. And just pause here. I'd like to add to that. That's a good sequence, but we can make it more challenging. But first, let's do the other side. So lift your knee, plant your foot on the mat, lift your blocks, simply step your right foot forward and switch sides. In this pose, we're not on a center line. So your right foot's going to be on the right side of the center of your mat, and if you look down, you see your left foot, and you'll move it a little bit to the left before you plant it. Bring your thumb into your right hip crease. Lift your left arm high. Lift both arms high. Virabhadrasana 1. And then hinge forward, bringing your spine parallel to the mat. Use your blocks underneath your shoulders to lift, lift, lift the back leg, moving your blocks forward, creating a T shape. This is Virabhadrasana or Warrior 3. Now, this is a balance. If you're feeling more energetic, you might lift one or both arms. So you'll have that option in a moment. Soften your standing leg. Step your left leg back. Lift back to Warrior 1. Reach forward. Bring your hands to your blocks. Come into the T shape. Bend your knee. Step back to Warrior 1. Just one more time. Hinge forward. Come into your T shape. Bend your knee. Step back. Warrior 1. Lower your hands and lower your left knee. Bring both of your blocks to the inside, or at least one to the inside of your foot, so you can lower your forearms and drop your knee to the side so you can give your hip a rest. We're adding an additional challenge here. You can do the same thing again. If you felt like that was enough, then that's great. If you'd like to do more, I'm going to add a little bit more challenge. First, you have the option of keeping your arms by your ears as you extend into your Warrior 3. I don't know if I'm going to do that, so that's why I'm just telling you. I'll cue it, but I think I won't do it. I'll cue it, but I won't do it. Lift your back knee, step your left foot forward, have your blocks ready. Let's bring our hands to our hips, rise into Tadasana, and take a rest. So that you have a visual idea in your head, this is where we're going next. We'll take our right foot back into our warrior, hinging forward. You have an option to keep your arms by your ears, but then going to place a hand on the block, reach back, and take a hold of one foot. Now you don't have to do this at all, and here's going to be the tough transition. I don't think we're going to do this multiple times. We'll reach and slowly rise into a Lord of the Dances. If you fall out, just come back and then re-enter it. We'll go back, just sort of retracing our steps all the way through the sequence. Okay? So minus my slipping and falling, we'll take that sequence. Inhale, arms reach. Exhale, soften your knees, fold. Bring your hands to the blocks and step your right leg way back. Move your foot a little bit to the right and plant it. Hook your left thumb into your hip crease. We'll just do that again to square the hips forward. That'll be helpful in a moment. Lift your upper body. Pause in Virabhadrasana 1. Hinging forward. Level your spine to the mat. Option to keep your hands here. This is tough. I'm going to take my hands to my blocks. Find your T shape. Your standing leg can stay a little soft as you're transitioning. This can help your balance. It lowers your center of balance a little bit, which makes it easier. Keeping your left hand on your block, reach your right arm back, bending your knee. Now, you're going to hold on to your foot. You might keep your standing knee soft and just take your hand off your block. Take your time as you start to rise. Anything you do with control is going to take more strength and stamina, but ultimately it's going to build more strength for you and give you a more chance of success than just moving just quickly, slowly bring your hand back to your block. Release your foot, come back into your T shape. Take a big step back. This time, lower your back knee, extend your front leg straight, and bend. Just move back and forth a little bit. The next time you bend your knee, just slide your foot, bringing yourself, actually, we'll take the knee by the block and sit all the way on your left hip. Open your left leg so that you have a 90-degree angle in your knee. Place your hands forward, twist from your belly, and lower your forearms down either to your mat or to your blocks. We're looking for a stretch in your outer left hip. So that hip was working really hard. If you're not feeling the stretch, take your hand, your right hand to your right hip and push that hip down towards the mat. That will deepen the angle between your pelvis and your left thigh and create maybe a deeper stretch in your hip. Balance poses really require a lot of strength in our legs, our feet, our ankles, but also our hips. Now lift your upper body, Draw your heel in, lift your hips till they're level with the mat, plant your hands on your mat just a few inches from the front and curl your back toe under. Lift to a one-legged downward facing dog. So first, round your spine, activate your abdominals, hover your left shin above the mat, then rise to down dog and add a twist. So lift your left knee high to the sky. And then you can use some momentum here. Level your hips and step your left foot forward. Step your right foot forward. Bring your hands to your hips and rise. Hoorah! Woo! Make certain that your blocks are handy if they moved for our last hip stretch. And we're going to take the other side. Woohoo! Inhale, lift your arms high. Exhale, soften your knees. Bring your fingers to your mat and step your left leg way back. Now, your right foot's on the right side of your center line. If you had a racing stripe down the center of your mat, move your left foot a little bit to the left and plant it. Place your right hand on your right hip and push it back. Stabilize your pelvis and rise. Lift both arms high. Now, if you're really feeling invigorated and strong, you can keep your arms by your ears all the way through this. Hinge forward. I'm going to take my hands to my blocks, tap the back foot forward, and rise into your T shape. Now here's where we've got our challenge. Place your right hand back on a block, bend your left knee, reach back, take a hold of your left foot. First step here is just to take your hand off your block. So you might shift back into your heel just a little bit. Keep a softness in your standing knee and very slowly rise. When you feel like you're losing your balance, just pause, regain it. Don't try to move past that point. Then we'll reverse, just like we're reversing the film, rewinding. Place your hand back on the block. Re-extend into your warrior 3. Soften your knee. Step back to warrior 1. Lower your hands. Lower your back knee. Grab your blocks. Extend and bend. We're just going to do that sequence one time. Maybe you'll want to watch the video again and try it again. But we've got more fun things to do. You know, it sounds a little like a threat, doesn't it? There are going to be fun. Yes. So bring your hips back. Draw your foot in. Just place your knee forward and sit all the way on your right hip. Open your knee 90 degrees. This back leg should be extended back a little bit, so you're making an S shape with your legs. Place your hands forward, twist at your waist, and then lower your forearms down, maybe to blocks, maybe to the mat, wherever they go. Remember, if you're not feeling a stretch in your outer right hip, bring your left hand to your left hip and kind of push it down so that that angle closes a bit between your pelvis and your right femur, your right thigh bone. Rest here for a few breaths. Then lift your upper body. You won't be using your blocks for this next transition. So move them away from you off your mat and draw your right heel in close, level your hips. Place your hands on the mat just a few inches from your starting line, the very front of your mat. Lift your left knee, Come back to your down dog and lift your right leg high, bending your knees. Stack your right knee above your right hip above your left hip. And then lower both feet to the mat, lower your knees and sit up. Quick demo. The next transition is a wild thing. So we call it wild thing. I don't know if it has a yogi name, but we're going from that one-legged down dog into a wild thing, which is a back bend. And I'll demo that for you, but again, slow and controlled is the pace that we're taking this. And the fun part is reversing and coming out. I always find that coming out is something we can neglect and do in a sloppy way, and I want to give it as much attention as the move in. So you'll find your one-legged down dog and then just continue that trajectory that you've started. Look between your hands and lower your foot to the mat. Lift your hips high. Now your top hand reaches and you can gaze at it. Then here's the transition out. Look down and you try with as much control as you can to come back to your one-legged down dog, level your hips and lower your foot to the mat. Okay? So tabletop, hands about 8 inches forward of your shoulders. Curl your toes under. We're going to start by lifting the left leg, which is going to be just what I did. Lift your left leg high, bend your knee, stack your knee above your hip. Look between your hands, shift weight into the right side of your body. Maybe you can hover your left hand for a moment above the ground. I kind of plopped there. Lift up, make this a back bend, lifting your hips, gaze at your top hand. Then look down and start to transition, trying to make this as controlled as you can. Lower your foot, come back to a balanced downward facing dog. Other side. Right leg lifts, bend your knee. Stack your right knee above your left, above your hip. Little twist, gazing between your hands as slowly as you can. Plant your right foot down, gazing up in your back bend. Look down. Ground your gaze as you transition out. And lower. Take your knees down. Take a moment in your child's pose or sitting if you're more comfortable there. Either way, close your eyes. Let's practice that one more time. And if you would prefer not to, we're only going to do it one more time. So just stay in child's pose or stay seated. Tabletop. Hands 8 inches forward. Curl your toes under. Downward facing dog. Left leg lifts. Take your twist, bent knee. Gaze between your hands. Shift weight into your right side. Maybe balance with one hand on the mat. And then see if you can lower your foot gently. Gaze up, make it a back bend. Then look down. Transition as comfortably as you can. Back to a balanced down dog. Right leg lifts. Bend your knee. Gaze forward. Control your movement. And gaze back down between your hands or where that will be. Down dog with the twist and lower. Lower your knees. Whew. Hoorah. Close your eyes. If your heart rate is elevated, take a moment to let it slow down. Let your breath slow down. Now maybe that was easy work for you, those transitions we did. They were challenging for me. I'm a little tired, but I have one more that I want to do. This is on arm balance. It's called crow pose. And this is a pose that I think intimidates a lot of people. The important thing here is that we do this for fun. And there's really no other reason right now to throw this pose in other than to challenge our sense of perfectionism maybe, and just have fun with the transition. Go along with me, see where you can go with this. So it does require a squat. So curling your toes under, lift your knees. Reach your arms forward. I rest my knees in my armpits. And I'll be honest, if you can do skin on skin, that grip is helpful. So if you're wearing yoga pants, maybe you pull the pants up so that your knees can be exposed, and this will help you avoid slipping. Your knees might slip off. Some people like their knees on the outer edges of their arms and they pull in or push in. I prefer them just resting in the armpits to start with. They kind of slide down to my triceps as I'm doing this. Fan your fingers, plant them down, and then think about a forward motion. So just take a rock forward and back, and rock forward and back. So that's all you need to do, really. There's no need to make it more than that. Now, if you want to go more, rock forward, lift a toe, and rock back. Rock forward, lift a toe, and rock back. And just try to smooth it out. Smoothing it out. Maybe you get comfortable and you can rock forward and tap your toes together. And then maybe you're able to tap one leg up and then the other and balance. And then come back out. Bring your knees down to the mat. Pause for just a moment. Your wrists might be tired now. Bring your hands forward and create tripods. And just flick the mat with your tripods. So your fingers are coming together and apart. Place one hand on the mat. If it really bothers you to flex, maybe just place your knuckles on the mat and place your other hand flexing in the other direction, knuckles down. And then you might switch sides. Well, you should switch sides. Let's call that a should, not a might. Take a moment in tabletop. If your wrists are still tired, you can place knuckles on the mat. Slide your left arm underneath you. Rest your shoulder and the side of your face to the mat. Just breathe here for a couple of breaths. We're starting to slow this down now. You did a lot of good work. Take a few deep breaths in and out. And press your right hand down to lift your upper body back to tabletop. Slip your right arm underneath you. Lower your right shoulder, right side of your face to the mat, and breathe. Come back to tabletop. Bring your fingertips to the very front edge of your mat. Walk your knees back until you get to a point where you're like, I don't feel like I want to move them back anymore. It feels a little uncomfortable. Stop, stretch your hips back and rest your forehead on the mat. Let your heart just melt towards the mat and breathe. Lift your shoulders, walk your hands back, and come onto your back. Bend your knees, have your heels close to your hips. Open your arms like a T. Lift your hips, shift them a few inches to the right and lay them back down. Draw your knees into your chest and drop your knees to the left. It's okay if your right shoulder lifts a little off the mat. You might, if that's really, really uncomfortable, bring a block underneath your two knees, and that should help if this twist is too deep. Option to extend your right leg towards straight. Keep your knees stacked one above the other so your thighs are aligned, and then maybe you can grab your right big toe with your left hand. That will create a deeper twist and also a deeper stretch in your IT band and your hip. This twist is good for opening up the low back. It's nice for realigning your spine. It really does a lot. It opens the chest and the shoulder, and as you can see here, you can also make it a little bit about hamstrings. Now release your foot if you've extended your leg, and then bring your knees over your hips again and rebalance. Let's just take that simply to the other side. So lift your hips, move them a few inches to the left, draw your knees in towards your chest, drop them to the right. Whatever you did on your first side, you'll do again. If your leg is extended, rebend it, bring your knees over your hips again, rebalance your hips. This time, bring your right ankle to your left knee, a little bit more for the hips. Lift your left foot off the mat and interlace your hands around your left thigh and pull your knee in. Okay, if you'd like to circle your left knee up towards the sky. So if you had a spotlight shining out of your left knee, you'd be drawing a circle in the sky, massaging your hip. When you pull your knee in, you get a more intense stretch. So at some point, pull your knee in and pause and just hold that intense stretch. Lower your left foot to the mat. Cross your thigh over your thigh. So slide your right thigh over your left thigh and then pull both of your knees in again. And depending on the intensity of this pose, you may need more sensation. To do that, slide your hands down towards your ankles and pull them apart a little bit. So you're pulling your thighs in an external rotation. A little deeper hip opening for the right hip. Slide your hands back up to your knees. Just lower your left foot to the mat as you uncross your legs. Point the sole of your right foot up towards the sky. Keep your knee bent. Pull your knee down towards your armpit. Now maybe you can grab your ankle, your calf, or your outer foot and pull that knee down. Option to stay here, or you can extend your left leg straight on the ground for more intensity. Release your foot, lower your right foot to the mat and bring your left ankle to your right knee. Lift your right foot off the mat. Interlace your hands around your right thigh. Circle your right knee to the sky if you'd like. And at some point, pull the knee in and pause. Relax your left hip. Allow it to open. Lower your right foot and cross your left thigh over your right thigh. Draw your knees in. Place your hands on your knees. This might be where you stay, but if you'd like, you can slide your hands down to your ankles and separate them. If you slid your hands down, bring them back to your knees and lower your right foot back to the mat. Uncross your thighs and point your left sole up towards the sky. Perhaps you can grab your ankle, your calf, or your outer foot and pull your knee down towards your armpit. And a more challenging stretch is to extend your right knee straight or towards straight. Release your left foot. Place your left foot on the mat, bend your right knee, draw both knees in and circle your knees. Massage your low back, your pelvis. Then plant your feet on the mat. Extend your legs straight. Relax your legs. Bring your hands by your side, palms up. Finally, we'll integrate all of the work that we did with Shavasana. In this pose, try to keep your mind here on your mat. Certainly thoughts might come into your mind and try not to hold on to them. The idea is this: we're only here for a few moments. Most of the thoughts that we think we've thought many, many times before. So see if you can resist those mundane thoughts and plans coming back into your mind. Give it something to focus on, and quite possibly this gorgeous, relaxed, strong, and flexible body that you have now. Begin to deepen your breath and bring some movement into your hands and into your feet. Make your movements larger. Maybe it's a big full body stretch or drawing your knees into your chest. Then bend your knees and roll onto one side. keep your eyes closed. Gently push yourself up to a seated position and bring your palms together at the heart. Give yourself a deep inner bow for attending to your practice. And I thank you for sharing your effort and your energy with me. Namaste. Good job. It didn't rain on me.